Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Let's read about the classification of triangles. This is very important and interesting topic to learn. The triangle is a polygon which has three sides, right? So we have already learned that what is a polygon? It is a shape, a 2D shape which is made up of line segments. And a triangle is the simplest type of a polygon. So here, if we draw a polygon with just three sides, we end up forming a triangle. Okay, triangle is the simplest type of a polygon. Every triangle is of different size or shape, so you can make different types of triangles depending upon the sizes and shapes. We classify them on the basis of their sides and angles. So now as you can see that in a triangle, we have got these three sides and we have got these three angles. So depending upon these three sides and these three angles, we will now learn about the classification of triangles. Starting with the classification of triangles based on sides. Okay, so the first one stands here is scalene. The word is scalene. Be careful with the spelling of the word scalene. Right. So here the meaning of this word scalene is if all the sides are different, then it is called scalene triangle. Okay. This is the first type of classification that is given in the image to you. All the three sides, they are of different measure. Okay. And thus this kind of a triangle is called a scalene triangle. Now let's look at the next classification. Isosceles. Isosceles triangles are those where we have got two sides of equal measure. Now this is very important to remember. Two sides, any two sides. It's not that just these two sides can be equal. I can also draw this kind of a triangle and I can say that these two sides are equal. Okay, so it should have two sides equal. It is called isosceles triangle. Moving on to the third one, that is equilateral triangle. If all the sides are equal, we call it equilateral triangle. It's simple and it's also very easily seen, like in most of the questions you deal with such kind of triangles usually. Now moving on to the next one, that is classification on the basis of angles. We have just learned about classification on sides. Now we are learning about classification on based of angles. So the first one is acute angled triangle. The word acute stands for the acute angles are those which measures less than 90 degrees. Okay, so if all the angles are less than 90, then this is called as acute angled triangle. Okay, moving on to the next one. This is a right angled triangle. A right angled triangle must have one angle measuring 90 degrees. So this is the one which you can see in the image. If one of the angle is 90 in measure, then we call it a right angle triangle. Moving on to the third one. This is obtuse angled triangle. The obtuse angled triangle are those where we have one of the angle measuring more than 90. So you can see this particular angle here, it's greater than 90 degrees, right? So if one of the angles of the triangle is obtuse, we call this particular kind of triangles as obtuse angled triangle. Let us now try some questions. It says draw a rough sketch of the following. Starting with the A part, a scalene acute angled triangle. So scalene means all the sides should be of different length, right? So let's say this one, and here this one. Okay, so here I have tried to make a rough sketch of a scalene acute angle triangle. Clearly you can see that here I have tried to make all these angles less than 90. Or probably let's try again because this one I think might end up being bigger than 90. So let me try again. Okay, so this one is definitely the one which is scalene acute angled triangle. Okay, so here, because this is a rough hand drawing, so probably when you are drawing, make sure that all the sides they are measuring different. Now moving on to the B part. An obtuse angled isosceles triangle. The word obtuse means the angle should be, one of the angles should be greater than 90. Right, so now the triangle that I drew earlier was the correct one here. But now it says it needs to be isosceles triangle, okay? So let's say this is my isosceles triangle with these two sides, these two lines being equal to each other, and this particular angle being greater than 90 degrees. This is greater than 90. So this particular triangle is obtuse angled isosceles triangle. Now the third one, the C part, says a right angled isosceles triangle. So if I draw this kind of a triangle and I say that these two sides are equal, and here this particular angle, this measures 90 degrees. So the triangle that I've drawn is a right angled isosceles triangle. Now the D part, a scalene right angle triangle. So here this can be a scalene right angle triangle. Clearly all the sides there of different measure, and here this particular angle is 90 in measure. I hope you have understood this. Moving on to the next one. It says, do you think it is possible to sketch? Let's read what is the first one. An obtuse angled equilateral triangle. Now this is something very interesting that you will note here. It is not possible to make an obtuse angled equilateral triangle. If you are making an equilateral triangle, it will always look something similar to this, where if you notice and if you measure, so I want you to try one thing here. You try a triangle, making sure that all the sides that you draw, they all are equal. So you can just keep 4 centimeter, 4 centimeter, 4 centimeter, or say 5 centimeter for each of the side. And then when you are done with making a triangle such, you measure the angles that are formed. No matter how different triangle you will follow, you will always see that the measure of the angles is always 60, 60 and 60 degrees each. Okay, so please make sure, do remember this, that an equilateral triangle will always have all the three angles measuring 60 degrees each. Okay, and because it says that obtuse angle, so it's not possible because 60 is less than 90, so we cannot draw this particular type of triangle. Moving on to the B part, a right angled equilateral triangle. So right angled equilateral triangle is again not possible. We just discussed that in an equilateral triangle all the angles must be 60 degrees in measure. So again we cannot have 90-degree angle because here it says right angle. So we cannot have a right angle in an equilateral triangle. Now let's see the C part. A triangle with two right angles. A triangle with two right angles. It's not even possible to make such kind of a triangle because the sum of all the angles inside the triangle, they must be 180. You can check here, 860 plus 60 plus 60 is 180, right? And if we try to make a triangle where two sides, they measure 90 and 90. So clearly what you can see, these are the two sides. I cannot join these two sides. They are standing straight. So I cannot join them to make 90. I cannot join them to make a triangle. So clearly I need this kind of a line to form a triangle, right? So it is not possible to make a triangle with two right angles.